The creak of the floorboards under his boots echoed like a gunshot in the quiet dawn, pulling me from the haze of too many whiskeys and whispered regrets. There he was, silhouetted against the hallway light spilling into my bedroom like an uninvited confession. Alex? The guy I'd spent the whole night stealing glances at across the crowded loft party in Williamsburg. His laugh cutting through the bass thump of indie rock like a lifeline I didn't know I needed. But now, with the bass faded to a distant hum from the street below and the air thick with the stale scent of cigarette smoke clinging to his flannel shirt, he paused at the foot of my bed. Our eyes locked, and in that beat of silence, the truth crashed in. One of us was about to shatter the fragile wall we'd built around this spark. Or we'd both walk away pretending it was just another Brooklyn blur. I was 32. A graphic designer scraping by on freelance gigs for craft breweries and indie bands. My life a cycle of late nights hunched over my MacBook in this shoebox apartment, sketching logos that screamed rebellion while my own felt muffled under layers of what-ifs. Growing up in a sleepy Ohio suburb where gay was whispered like a curse, I'd learned early to keep the volume low, dates and shadows, hookups that ended before coffee. Alex? He was fire in human form. 31. A firefighter out of ladder 132 in Bushwick. The kind of guy who charged into burning buildings without flinching. His broad shoulders earned from hauling hoses and hauling ass through life's infernos. We'd met 6 months back at a mutual friend's gallery opening, trading barbs over cheap Merlot about Rothko's Reds versus the glow of a fresh tattoo. Fox? Sure. But nothing more. Until tonight. The party had been the usual chaos, fairy lights strung like drunken fireflies across exposed brick walls, bodies grinding to synth-pop remixes, the air heavy with weed haze and the sharp tang of spilled IPAs. I'd nursed a beer in the corner, watching Alex hold court by the charcuterie board, his easy grin disarming a room full of artists and baristas, his calloused hand clapping backs like he owned the night. When our eyes met across the throng, it wasn't polite, it was a pull, magnetic and merciless, like gravity deciding to rewrite the rules. He crossed the room, beer in hand, and leaned in close enough that I caught the faint cedar smoke of his cologne mixed with the adrenaline sweat from a long shift. "You look like you're plotting a heist," he said, voice low and gravelly, the kind that vibrated straight to your bones. I laughed it off, but my pulse betrayed me, hammering like a bass drum in my chest. Hours blurred, shared smokes on the fire escape, knees brushing under the coffee table during a heated debate on Scorsese's queer undercurrents in Taxi Driver. By 2 a.m., the crowd thinned to stragglers nursing hangovers and waiting, and when the host passed out on the couch, Alex caught my arm in the kitchen. "Walk me out." But the walk turned into lingering on my stoop, the November chill nipping at our necks, his breath fogging the air between us like a promise. "Your place isn't far," he murmured. And God, the way his thumb traced my wrist, it wasn't a question. It was surrender. But here in the dim glow of my bedside lamp, the sheets tangled from my restless half-sleep, he toed off his boots with a soft thud that echoed my thudding heart. The room smelled of us already, my lavender detergent clashing with his post-party musk, a heady cocktail that made my mouth dry. I propped up on one elbow, the cool cotton whispering against my skin, and watched him, really watched him, for the first time without the party's buffer. His blonde hair was mussed, falling over forehead creased with the weight of unspoken battles. Those blue eyes, sharp as a winter sky over the East River, held mine with a vulnerability that punched the air from my lungs. "Thin," he said, my name a rough exhale, like it had been clawing its way out all night. He shrugged off his flannel, letting it pool on the floor like shed armor, revealing the taut lines of his chest, the faint ladder of scars from close calls on the job, reminders that this man lived on the edge, while I'd spent years safely behind my screen. I swallowed hard, the lump in my throat tasting like regret and want. You don't have to, but the words died as he crossed the 2 steps to the bed, the mattress dipping under his weight like the world tilting on its axis. He didn't climb in fully, he hovered, one knee pressing into the edge, his hand reaching out to trace the line of my jaw. The touch was electric, calluses rough against my stubble, sending shivers racing down my spine despite the warmth blooming in my chest. Our breaths synced in the quiet, mine shallow and quick, his steady but laced with a tremor I hadn't expected from a guy who faced down flames for a living. A distant siren wailed, a siren song to the city's restless pulse. But in here, it was just us, the faint tick of my alarm clock, the rustle of sheets as I shifted closer, the soft hitch in his inhale when our fingers laced together. Then he moved, sliding under the covers with a grace that belied his size, his body aligning against mine like puzzle pieces we'd both forgotten we owned. Skin to skin, his warmth seeping into me, chasing away the chill I'd carried for years. His arm draped over my waist, heavy and anchoring, pulling me flush until I could feel the steady thrum of his heart against my back, a rhythm that drowned out the doubts screaming in my head. This is too real, my mind whispered, ghosts of exes who'd bolted at dawn rising like smoke. He's straight passing enough to break you. But his lips brushed my shoulder, a feather-light kiss that tasted of salt and sincerity, and I turned in his arms, facing him in the half-light. Our mouths met slow, exploratory, no rush, just the unhurried mapping of lips and tongues, the wet slide that drew a low groan from deep in his throat. It built like a storm over the Hudson, hands roaming, mapping the terrain of ribs and hips, nails grazing just enough to elicit gasps that fogged the air between us. The scent of him enveloped me, sweat and soap and something uniquely Alex, like fresh rain on asphalt after a blaze. I arched into him, fingers threading through his hair, tugging just hard enough to earn a hiss that vibrated against my neck. Ethan, he murmured again, voice wreck. I've wanted this since that damn gallery. With your sketches and your quiet fire. You see me. Not the hero bullshit. The confession cracked something open in me, raw and aching. I pulled back just enough to search his face, thumb brushing the crease between his brows. And you terrify me, I admitted, the words tumbling out in a rush, laced with the tremor of old wounds. Last guy I let in? He said it was a phase. Left me picking up pieces in the dark. The vulnerability hung there, heavy as the duvet. But his eyes didn't flinch. Instead, he cupped my face, forehead pressing to mine, breaths mingling in shared sighs. I'm not him. I'm here, fighting fires and fighting this pull toward you. Scared shitless? Yeah, but not running. We moved then, bodies entwining in a dance as old as desire, urgent yet tender. His hands were everywhere, strong, sure, igniting trails of heat that made me arch and plead in whispers lost to the dawn chorus of waking traffic. The friction built, slick and insistent, gasps turning to moans that echoed off the brick walls, the bed frame creaking in protest like a conspirator. Climax hit like a wave crashing on Coney Island sands, shuddering, all-consuming, leaving us tangled and spent, chests heaving in unison. But it wasn't just release, it was revelation, the kind that rewires your soul in the afterglow. As the first real light pierced the curtains, painting gold stripes across his sleeping form, I traced the scar on his chest, a jagged line from a warehouse blaze 2 years back, when he'd pulled a kid from the inferno and nearly didn't make it out. He told me that story once. Over takeout Thai. Voice steady but eyes distant, like the smoke still lingered in his lungs. But in this fragile morning, I understood survival wasn't just physical. It was choosing to climb into the unknown, to let someone see the burns beneath the bravado. She stirred, eyes fluttering open to meet mine, a lazy smile curving his lips that made my heart stutter. "Morning," he rumbled, voice husky with sleep, pulling me closer until there was no space left for doubts. No grand gestures, just the quiet press of palms, the shared warmth that chased away the cold grip of solitude. The city hummed to life, horns blaring, vendors calling, the eternal grind of New York, but in here, we'd carved out a pocket of possibility. We spent the day like that, lazy coffee in mismatched mugs, his head on my lap as I sketched absent-minded lines on a napkin, his fingers drumming rhythms on my thigh that spoke of symphonies yet to come. By evening, as we walked hand in hand down Bedford Avenue, "Fuck the stairs. The world could wait," he squeezed my palm and said, "This isn't a one-night rewrite. It's our story now." And in that moment, with the skyline twinkling like a promise kept, I believed him. Because sometimes, the bravest act isn't charging into the fire, it's staying after, letting the embers warm you through the night.